The night my life changed forever started with a sentence I never expected to hear. My boss looked me straight in the eyes, slid a contract across her polished glass desk, and calmly said she would pay me $1 million to be her husband for 1 year. At first, I thought it was some kind of cruel joke. The kind rich people play when they're bored. But she wasn't smiling. Her expression was serious, almost desperate. The kind of desperation that hides behind expensive suits and perfectly controlled emotions. And that's when I realized, she meant every word. Before we begin this story, take a moment to like the video, comment, share, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that sometimes the most unexpected relationships can change our lives forever. Because what started as a fake marriage slowly turned into the most real thing either of us had ever known. I had been working for her for almost 3 years. Her name was Evelyn Carter, the CEO of a massive technology company that seemed to own half the city skyline. She was brilliant, intimidating, and completely untouchable. Employees whispered about her in the hallways the way people whisper about storms approaching on the horizon, beautiful but dangerous. To someone like me, she felt like she lived on another planet. I was just a maintenance technician in the building. I fixed broken lights, jammed doors, and faulty wiring. I was the guy people barely noticed unless something stopped working. But somehow, over time, Evelyn started noticing me. It started small. She would occasionally pass me in the hallway and nod politely. Once she thanked me personally when I fixed the lighting system in the executive conference room minutes before an important meeting. Most bosses wouldn't even have looked at me. But she did. And those small moments stayed with me longer than they probably should have. Still, I never imagined they meant anything. Until that night. In her office. The contract sat between us like a bomb waiting to explode. My heart pounded as I flipped through the pages. Legal terms. Financial agreements. Confidentiality clauses. And one sentence that repeated again and again in different forms. 1 year of marriage. $1 million. No romantic obligations. Total discretion. I finally looked up at her, convinced there had to be something I wasn't understanding. Her eyes looked tired in a way I had never seen before. Not tired from work. Tired from life. She explained everything slowly, like someone confessing something they were ashamed of. Her grandfather, the founder of the company, had built the entire empire from nothing. Before he passed away, he left a condition in his will. Evelyn could only retain control of the company if she was married within the next 6 months. He believed stability in leadership required stability in life. But Evelyn had spent her entire life building the company. She had no time for relationships. No fiancé. No boyfriend. And the board of directors was already circling like sharks, waiting for her to fail the condition so they could take control. She needed a husband. Just on paper. Someone reliable. Someone who wouldn't betray her. Someone normal. And somehow, for reasons I still didn't fully understand, she chose me. Maybe it was because she had watched me work quietly for years without ever asking for attention. Maybe she trusted someone invisible more than someone powerful. Or maybe she was simply desperate. I remember laughing nervously when she finished explaining. Not because it was funny. Because it felt completely impossible. A man like me marrying a woman like her. Even if it was fake. But then she said something that changed everything. She told me she had noticed how I always stayed late to help coworkers fix problems that weren't technically my responsibility. She knew about the nights I worked extra shifts to help pay my mother's medical bills. She knew I had turned down a better job offer because it would have required moving away from my younger sister. She had been watching. Not in a creepy way. In a quiet, observant way. And she said something I'll never forget. She said she trusted my kindness more than she trusted anyone else's ambition. I didn't know how to respond to that. Nobody had ever described me that way before. But the truth was, the money could change everything for my family. My mother's treatments. My sister's college. A future that didn't feel like constant survival. So after a long silence, I signed the contract. And just like that, my life split into two versions. The ordinary one I used to live. And the completely unbelievable one that began the moment I became my boss's husband. The wedding happened 2 weeks later. It was small but elegant, carefully designed to look authentic without attracting too much attention. A few executives attended. A lawyer. A photographer. And my stunned little sister, who still thought this entire situation felt like a dream she was afraid to wake up from. Evelyn looked breathtaking in her white dress. But what struck me most wasn't her beauty. It was the sadness hiding behind it. The smile she wore looked practiced. Perfect. But not happy. After the ceremony, we moved into her penthouse apartment overlooking the city. It felt less like moving into a home and more like stepping into a luxury museum. Everything was beautiful. Everything was spotless. And nothing felt lived in. At first, our arrangement stayed exactly what the contract described. Professional. Polite. Distant. That we had separate bedrooms. Separate schedules. Separate lives that only overlapped when we had to appear together in public. To the world, we were the perfect power couple. Behind closed doors, we were two strangers living under the same roof. But something strange started happening over time. Small cracks began appearing in the careful distance we maintained. One night I found Evelyn sitting alone in the living room at 2 a.m., staring out at the city lights like she was searching for something she couldn't name. She looked surprised when I asked if she was okay. People probably never asked her that. Instead of giving a rehearsed answer, she simply admitted she couldn't sleep. So I made her tea. We sat in silence for a while. Then we started talking. About simple things. Childhood memories. Favorite movies. Embarrassing stories from school. And for the first time since I had known her, Evelyn laughed. Not the polite corporate laugh she used during meetings. A real laugh. Warm. Uncontrolled. Human. That night something shifted between us. The fake marriage slowly began feeling less fake. We started eating dinner together more often. Watching late-night movies. Sharing small pieces of our lives. And the more I got to know her, the more I realized something heartbreaking. Evelyn Carter wasn't cold. She wasn't arrogant. She was lonely. Her entire life had been built around responsibility, expectations, and pressure. She had never learned how to simply be happy. And somehow, without either of us planning it, our strange arrangement began healing both of us. She helped my family more than the contract required. Quietly covering medical bills without mentioning it. Encouraging my sister's dreams. And I helped her remember how to live outside the boardroom. To laugh. To breathe. To exist without constantly carrying the weight of an empire on her shoulders. But the moment everything truly changed came almost 8 months into our marriage. We were attending a corporate gala. Hundreds of powerful people filled the ballroom. Cameras flashed. Executives smiled politely. And suddenly Evelyn's hand slipped into mine. Not for show. Not for the cameras. But because she was nervous. I squeezed her hand back instinctively. And she didn't let go. For the rest of the night. That small gesture sent a wave of realization crashing over me. Somewhere along the way, I had fallen in love with her. And the terrifying part was realizing I might lose her the moment our 1-year contract ended. Because in 11 months, Our marriage would legally disappear. And maybe she would disappear from my life too. I tried to ignore those feelings. After all, this arrangement had rules. But feelings don't follow contracts. They grow quietly. Stubbornly. Until they refuse to stay hidden. 3 months before the contract ended, everything finally exploded. Evelyn found another document in her grandfather's will. A clause neither of us had known about. If the marriage ended exactly at the 1-year mark, the board could still challenge her leadership. In other words, divorce would put everything at risk. The only safe solution was to remain married. For real. When she told me this, her voice was trembling. Not because of the company, but because she didn't know what I wanted anymore. And for the first time since our strange journey began, neither of us knew if our marriage was fake, or something far more complicated. That night we stood on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. The same city where our story had started with a simple contract. Evelyn finally asked the question that had been silently hanging between us for months. Did I want to stay married? Not for the money. Not for the company. But for her. My heart felt like it might explode in my chest. Because the truth I had been hiding was suddenly impossible to deny. I didn't sign that contract expecting to fall in love. But somewhere between late-night conversations, quiet laughter, and shared loneliness, she had become the most important person in my life. So I told her the truth. I told her I would stay married to her even if there was no contract, no money, and no reason other than the fact that I loved her. For a moment she didn't speak. Tears filled her eyes. And then she whispered something that changed everything. She admitted she had been terrified of that exact moment. Because she had fallen in love with me too. Not with the husband on paper, but with the man who made her feel like she wasn't alone anymore. The city lights shimmered around us as the silence stretched between our confessions. And then, without thinking about contracts or consequences, she kissed me. Not a staged kiss for cameras. A real one. Messy. Emotional. Perfect. The kind of kiss that turns fake marriages into real love stories. A year earlier, she had paid me to be her husband. But standing there in the night air, holding the woman who had slowly become my entire world, I realized something beautiful. The contract had created the marriage. But kindness, patience, and 2 lonely hearts had created the love. And sometimes the most unexpected beginnings lead to the most extraordinary endings. Before we finish this story, if this journey touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in love and second chances, and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles. Stories like this remind us that kindness and patience can turn even the most unlikely situations into something beautiful. And I have one special request before you go. Please comment the line, "Love can begin in the most unexpected ways." Because sometimes the person who changes your life forever is the one you never expected to fall for. Thank you for listening, and remember, the greatest love stories often start in the most unexpected ways. Red Heart Ring.